Welcome to the Stronger, Leaner, Lighter show. I'm your host, Sally Thibault. Today we're talking how to speak your truth without fear. Let's get stuck into this, shall we? Well, if there was ever a week where we have been confronted with how difficult it is for people to speak their truth without fear, it's been this week. For those of you who watched or saw or seen on social media, shall I say, the feedback, to be kind, for what's gone on for Meghan and Harry this week, in particular. For me, I feel it's been one of those moments in history where we realize, A, what an incredibly judgmental society we live in. B, what happens when you decide you're going to speak your truth, what can happen. And 3, I think it really goes to show it's none of our business what other people think and do. And it's also nobody else's business what you think and do. And I think part of all of this, what's going on globally in 2020 and 2021, for many people are being triggered at the moment about questioning and believing in something outside of the mainstream narrative. How does this impact on you? For many of you who watch this show, who are on this call, I know that you have been in situations over the past year, in particular, and now it is a year, where your questioning of what's going on has been met with challenges. And that's what this show is going to be all about. It's how to deal with those challenges, how to speak your truth with confidence, and what to do if you're in a situation where you are being judged for it and how to handle it. That's all the things we're going to cover. Before we move on, I just want to share with you and let me know too what your thoughts are on this. I just felt this whole Meghan and Harry royal family thing that happened on the last 2 days was a real indictment in where we are as a society. Now, I've always been a great fan of the royal family. I love the royal weddings. You know, like I remember when Princess Diana got married, and I got out the champagne. I had the hors d'oeuvres. I loved it. And then, of course, when William and Kate got married, did the same thing. You know, I think I even got dressed up. I can't remember what I did. And of course, Meghan and Harry. I'm a wedding tragic, probably more than a royal tragic, but I love all that. I just love all that. And you know, I think the Queen has been. There's lots of stories about it, but I think she's been an elegant leader, and the way she's actually handled this. All of that aside, whether you agree with the royal family or you don't, whether you agree with them, Meghan and Harry coming out and saying what they did, whether you did or not, I just look at the two of them as human beings, and if somebody is criticizing me for something I've said or done, there is a real desire to want to set the record straight. Now, in this last week, coincidentally, my daughter has been in a situation where she was attacked on social media. For those who don't know, my daughter is a journalist in Canada, and she covered a story, and the woman's story that she covered, she received a lot of flack on social media because of what she had done. And so that woman, rather than apologizing for upsetting people, turned the attack on my daughter. and on social media, and it was awful. It was the things that she was saying were terrible, threatening all sorts of things. And even though Alyssa has had the support of the station she works for, the legal team have looked at it and said, look, you're fine. This woman's threatening all sorts of legal action. And they said she's doesn't got a leg to stand on. The 48 hours of dealing with this constant barrage on social media was really challenging, not only for my daughter, but for me as her mother. For one reason in particular, we couldn't defend her. I couldn't defend her, and she couldn't defend herself. The station said, don't inflame it, don't say anything. So while all this was unfolding, we had to stay silent. And of course, you know what that's like as a mum. If you feel that your child's being bullied and picked on, it's like the mother bear thing comes out. And what it made me realize is that, rightly or wrongly, when you're a person in the public eye, you are at risk of being judged. And social media has made that so easy for the crazies to say whatever they like. So having gone through that with Alyssa for 48 hours, and it's all good now and everything's fine, but to see what Meghan and Harry have been through, you know what, you have to have your time when you can say, this isn't right. This is my story. This is my view of the situation, and I need to share what I'm going through. That's a natural thing to do. But what happened then, and I think this is where we can be triggered, is that they're speaking their truth and they are being attacked again, relentlessly attacked again. So to be able to speak your truth, watching all that go on can be really, really triggering. Because it's like you watch that and you go, oh, I don't think I ever want to speak my truth. I don't want to stand up for myself, because what if that happens to me? And so that's why this call today, to help you deal with similar situations that you may go through in this time of where we're all being challenged. No matter what we say, no matter what we do, no matter what we write, no matter what we think, we're all being challenged. I don't remember a time in my lifetime when we have been so divided. I don't remember a time. And I remember saying on a call, my Facebook Live show this time last year, around about the 20th, just before we were going to lockdown, and I said, this thing will divide us right down the middle. And that's exactly what it's done. And it divides families, and that's what it's doing. So what we're going to do today is we're going to talk how you can speak your truth without being triggered, and to get your point across. So let's go through it. Let me know if it's happened to you. Just send me a heart or a like. If you're finding this time particularly difficult, let me know. Let me know how we can, and I can help you. So first of all, fear pretends to be something else. So if you're feeling fearful about speaking your truth, you may not recognize it as fear. It may show up as procrastination. It may show up as anxiety. It may show up as a bad temper. It may show up as lethargy. It may show up as self-sabotage. And in particular, in the area that I deal with, for many people, being unable to speak their truth often shows up as eating foods. Usually foods of high fat, high sugar, simple carbohydrates, creamy foods that kind of make you feel better, or crunchy foods where you are crunching down on so you don't say anything. So fear will often manifest as something else. And the key for you is to be able to step back and say, well, what's really going on for me? So it often shows up as something else. And that's where being very aware of you, of yourself and your habits. So if, as I said, if you're procrastinating, if you've set yourself a goal and you're not achieving it, just check around what's going on. Secondly, It's not your job to change somebody else's opinion. That's not your job. When you speak your truth, you want to speak it from your words. It's not up to you to have them change their minds, and in most circumstances, they won't. The reason you speak your truth is so that you are not holding on to something, that you are not impacting that stress on your body. You know, Shakespeare said, the truth shall set you free, and that's what it does. When you're allowed, and that's why in EFT and tapping, we always go to the honest, how you're actually feeling, like the real feeling, because it's the truth that sets you free. When you speak your truth, the energy comes off. The more you speak the truth, the more confident you feel about it. But it's not your job to change somebody else's opinion. That's not your job when you're speaking your truth. Your truth is about you. So whatever you believe currently about what's going on in 2020 and 2021, it's not your job to try and get somebody else to see differently, because you'll only end up in an argument. I mean, this thing is just driving. It is so intense. And if you try to change people's opinion or their mind, they get really defensive. That's why I love it at the moment when I go somewhere. As it happened on Saturday, and I started to talk to somebody, and I've known this lady for a while. This is the first time we've ever had a conversation. We're both looking at each other going, I didn't know you thought like that. It was so wonderful. We're kind of whispering, by the way. But it's not up to you to change their minds. And I think we get caught up on that. I've got to change your opinion. They're not going to. You know, don't discuss religion or politics ever, because you're not changing someone's opinion. Okay, let me just have a look at the comments coming through. Absolutely, Sandy says. Mel, yeah, so much sickness is caused from suppressing and speaking your truth. Absolutely, Mel. It festers inside of you. This creates resistance for you. Absolutely, Sandy. Exactly. All right. So if it's not up to you to change somebody else's opinion, then you have to look at the words that you're saying. And I find this a lot with people, they're not understanding the power of their words. For instance, when you start to use the words, you need to understand me, you need to get this, your job is not to change somebody else's mind. So if you're saying you need, or you say you don't, or you never, or you always, that's going to put somebody on the back foot straight away. Remember, this is about speaking your truth. And what other people, everybody else has another story. So if you start saying things you need, or they need to understand, you need to get this, no, they don't. They're quite happy doing what they're doing. So watch the words that you couch your truth in. Remember, you're not here to change other people's opinions. This is about sharing your truth. Do you use weasel words? Oh, don't you love weasel words? So weasel words, I love weasel words. I love the whole thing together. And I'm going to do a whole nother show on all the weasel words we use. But don't use terminologies like in my opinion. That's a weasel word. In my opinion. And I hate it when people say that to me. I don't care what your opinion is. I'm not interested. If you're telling me something and I'm not agreeing with it, and you say, oh, in my opinion, I don't care. What's this got to do with me? In my opinion. Right, whatever. As I said, I'm going to do a whole show. I might do it next week, actually, on all the weasel words we use. And weasel words are an out. That's an out. So it's not a statement. And when you use the word, in my opinion, what you're saying to the other person is, you don't have the knowledge I do. It's like shutting them down. So watch that. And if you hear somebody else saying, in my opinion, check how you feel when somebody says that to you. Well, in my opinion, I don't give a damn what your opinion is. The next thing to do is to ask the question, if you're speaking your truth and you're feeling fearful or inconfident, what's it triggering in you? What's the speaking your truth triggering in you? Because every time you have a response, any trauma response, it's just triggering an old word, usually people, words, events of your past. So many situations, especially when we're children and we've spoken our truth, either we have been shut down. You may have been, I grew up with the nuns and you weren't allowed to ask questions. Challenge. I also grew up, my dad wasn't great with us asking questions or expressing things. He was sort of had that little bit of a, not so much now because he's raised 4 daughters, but earlier on, you're a woman, what would you know? Which still has a bit of a culture in this country. You're a woman, what would you know? So be careful when you want to speak your truth and you're holding something back, asking yourself, what's this triggering in me that I don't feel confident? Find the people, the words, events of your past that held you back from doing that. Next is to speak your truth without expectation of outcome. Remember, it is not your job to change other people's minds. That's not your job. That's their job to come to terms with themselves. For many of you on the call who are parents, the greatest lessons our children learn are the ones they learn by themselves. Is when they fall over and off the bike after you've told them 20,000 times, don't go that fast, and they fall off and hurt themselves, and that's the only way they're going to learn. So the same with everybody else. It's through our own experience. But sometimes we get caught up on, I'm going to speak my truth and I'm waiting for you to acknowledge me. I'm waiting for you to validate me. So we speak the truth, but then you go looking for the validation. Again, that goes back to the triggering, where in the past you needed to be validated. You don't need to be validated. You validate yourself. So when you're speaking your truth, to get into the habit of speaking your truth without the expectation of an outcome, you're not going to get it in most, especially if we discuss differing opinions of 2020 and 2021. You're not going to get it. So it's moving to that space of, I'm speaking my truth and I don't need your validation. I don't need your response. That's not my job. My job is to speak my truth, to release the energy, to speak my truth, to feel confident, because the more you speak your truth, the more confident you feel. But if you're holding it back, you're trapping it all in the body. The next is to start with the words, I feel. So if you're in a situation where somebody has done something to you that's disrespectful, or that you felt as abusive, or made you feel small, the words to always start with is I feel, not you did. Remember, we'll go back to those words before, where you don't use the you need, you don't, you never, you always. Always start with the words I feel. So when you said that the other day, this is how I felt. I felt invalidated. I felt you didn't listen. I felt you didn't hear me. I felt unheard. I should actually don't blame. Gee, how quickly I moved into that. When you said that the other day, I felt unheard. When you said that the other day, I felt invalidated. So you always bring it back to you, how you feel. It's because, remember, this is the truth of you. They come back with, I didn't expect, no, that wasn't what I meant. Okay, fine, I get that, but that's how I felt. And I've probably been triggered by something, but I just wanted to let you know. Now, normal relationships, we're not talking about narcissistic relationships or gaslighting, but in normal relationships, most people go, I'm so sorry. Honestly, I didn't mean that. Most people will. And most people say things without thinking about how other people are feeling. So start with the words I feel. You know, I feel whatever I feel. And then let me hop into the comments. Mel, I've tried to say to all my kids, respect other people's opinions. Yeah, exactly, Mel. That's what makes the world go round. Other people's opinions, how we learn. Boy, are we ever learning a lot right now, don't you think? About people I didn't know before. Whoa, am I ever learning about what people, you know, Mel, and for everybody else on the call, this is what I think I've experienced most this year, is I'm beginning to see how much our past fears are dominating what we do. And I'm trying to avoid using words so I don't get, bumped off this platform. But I think you know what I mean. Where this kind of mass fear has headed. And that fear, when you're in fear, of course, your cortisol levels rise and you can't think clearly. It's like you can't be objective. And it's interesting watching this from a global perspective. And I've come across people who I thought were quite self-actualized and quite confident and independent, and seeing what's the choices and the decisions they're making now, and I'm going, wow, that's really surprising to me. I didn't think you thought like that, and I didn't realize that was underneath. I think it's a really good, and that's what I love about love. It was interesting about this whole thing with Meghan and Harry was to watch people some people are nasty and judgmental. I was just going through some of the comments yesterday on social media and go, oh, whoa, wow. Where do you get that from? Boy, I wouldn't like to be living in your head. Gee. And I heard today that Piers Morgan's been taken off ITV he said something derogatory about the thing, and it had 41,000 negative comments about what he said, and he's been released from his contract. He was on the morning show in the UK. If you don't know Piers Morgan, who's never liked Meghan for some reason, they had a falling out. 41,000 people responded to something he said, so he's lost his job over it, which is really interesting. Yes, Sandy, expectation, validation run very close together. They do. They really, really do. We have this expectation of outcome to validate us because we don't feel validated. A lot more validation is needed, especially by the younger generation. And our anger over Meghan and Harry, yeah, nobody else's business, for goodness sake. Got a bit of a family spat going on. Stay out of it. The two sister-in-laws had a bit of a run-in, which is going to happen. She would have been emotional over the wedding, and Kate had just had a baby or was in the process of being pregnant or whatever it did. And so, of course, they're going to have a little spat, but boy, did it have to be made. Who cares? Really, who cares? And one thing I want to leave you with, because I think this is where the trigger often comes from. How often do you judge others? And Jerry and I did and I'm thinking we might try it again. We did a challenge for each other a couple of years ago, where for an entire month, we decided to have a month of no judgment. And we would pick each other up on it. It was really interesting. It was really hard. We decided to have a month of not judging. And what was really interesting was how I didn't think I was a judgmental person. But I would, somebody be speeding on the M1 and I'd go, what an idiot. Just without even thinking about it. Or someone in the supermarket, I'd stand there and watch, which I always do, watch the food they're loading, putting onto the trolley and going, judgment. Not my job to judge the fact that they put shit food on their carts. It's not my job. But it was catching myself. So when all of this is going on, step back, look at this globally. How often do I judge others? Because I don't like it when I'm judged. I don't know about you. I don't like it. And when you judge others, it says more about you than them. More about you than them. Media manipulation or techie reality, yeah, absolutely. Oh, we don't know what's going on. There's all sorts of things coming out today about, why they timed it like that and why aren't they going after the real royal in trouble. And oh God, I've got too many other things to think about. I don't know about you. So I hope that has helped. Remember, EFT is fantastic for getting rid of judgment, fantastic for giving you the confidence to speak your truth. And so this week, I'd really like you to just, whenever you feel that you are slipping into judgment, wherever you feel you are issues coming up around speaking your truth and you are doing something else around it, how's the fear showing up? What's it masking itself? The more people we can have that don't judge others, and the more people we can have who can speak their truth without expectation of outcome, a far better world we will have. So, thank you, Sandy. I love you too. Thank you for listening all the way from Charleville. Is it Charleville? Lovely to have you on. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for this week's show. I'll post some links above about some of the things I've got going on. Just send love to poor old Meghan and Harry. Get through this. And the Queen. She'll just be sitting back going, oh, the children are playing up again. What can I do? I thought her response was just lovely. Have a great week, everybody. Hope you've enjoyed the show. And I'll see you this time next week on the Stronger, Leaner, Lighter show. Bye for now. I think. Bye for now. How about I finish the show? How about good is that? Bye for now.